He has also been a teacher for both undergraduate, postgraduate students, and have also worked as a supervisor for PhD students. He has endless publications, more than 100 in national, international journals. He has written two very authoritative books chapters innumerable, 5 presentations endless, more than 100, and has 3 patents to his credit. Why we have called him today is the last word when it comes to detection, standards, regulation in the context of milk and milk products. He is a member of the scientific panel on milk products with the Food Safety Authority of India and has also served on the scientific panel on pesticide and antibiotic residues of FSSAI as well. He's member on numerous panels, both government and semi-government, and has also been an expert with the Export Inspection Agency, which comes under Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. He's member of Ghee Committee. He's also an expert for assessment of dairy units for the mark of, we have a quality mark which is assigned to a particular unit which is working in that particular area. So with his expertise in milk, is the last word on that as well. He's chairing many panels with the Committee on Bureau of Indian Standards, etc. This will take me a while to introduce him, but with that, I think please put your hands to welcome Dr. Baktula. Over to you, sir, please. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that nice introduction. I don't know. Anyway, good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, participants. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Yeram Rao and the students and faculty of Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences and University of Delhi, and all other faculty members who have given me this opportunity to speak to you this morning about a topic on milk and milk products and regulations and things like that under your, let me just share my screen first. Yeah, is my screen visible? The organizers, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you once again, Professor Yeram Rao and all other faculty members of Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences and faculty of University of Delhi. And I welcome all of you participants for this particular presentation. The topic being under this particular national workshop being conducted on rapid detection of food adulterants by Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences and University of Delhi. The topic assigned to me, as I've said, is regulatory and safety aspects of milk and milk products. Well, in this particular topic, and coinciding with the theme of the national workshop, I would like to cover some basic aspects on milk and how they impart health to us, and then what is their significance with respect to nutrition, because I believe many consumers are also there. I feel it's my duty to share some of the important issues with them. And then, to take the topic, the theme of the topic forward, we'll also talk about how milk and milk products, especially milk, liquid milk and ghee, how they are adulterated and what are the methods to detect. Since you have a live demonstration using some of the dark techniques, I'll not go into very big details of detection of adulteration, but I will just touch upon various methods. And then finally, we'll also see how regulations help the consumers to see that they receive safe and wholesome food. The whole objective of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is a legislature body with respect to foods in our country, actually their main objective is to see that consumers get safe and wholesome food. So I will just touch upon some of the about Indian dairying, where do we stand, etc., and nutritional and health assurance provided by milk and milk products, and adulteration, as I've mentioned, how milk and milk products can get adulterated and how to detect them. Some brief information on detection. And then, as I've said, regulation, and let us conclude the topic later. So with respect to Indian dairying, as most of you know, since 1998, we have been #1 with respect to milk production in the world. Today we produce about 198.4 million tons of milk, which is about 22% of the world share of milk production. Recently in the parliament, Minister of State for Agriculture, Mr. Rupala, also has mentioned that India has crossed 200 million tons of milk production. And with respect to rate of milk production, Karnataka tops. UP is the number one with respect to milk production in our country. Per capita availability, if you look at, is about 407 grams per day. That means every person has an availability of 407 grams of milk per day. And our annual growth rate with respect to milk production is 5.5 against 1.4% of the world. In fact, our growth with respect to dairying is much higher than our agricultural growth rate, which is about 2%. And then most importantly, agriculture contributes to about 20% to our GDA, and livestock agriculture encompasses everything, everything related to crops, pulses, milk and milk products, fisheries, everything. Whereas livestock sector livestock sector means it is like, milk and milk products, dairying, fisheries, meat and other things which come from the animals. So that contributes to about 5% with respect to our GDA. And with respect to livestock to agriculture is about 39%, and in livestock, milk takes a major share. About 67% of the contribution made by the livestock is contributed by dairying alone, which is about 8 lakh crore rupees. And we get our milk mainly from cows, about 50%, and then buffaloes contribute to the rest of the 50%. Different breeds like indigenous breeds, cross breeds, etc. And with respect to our demand and supply, we have surpassed our demand and much as early as in 2016, and we have continuously been producing more than our demand as per this particular graph. If you can see 107 grams, which is the national average, but Punjab and Haryana, if you see, it's over 1000 grams lower per capita availability. It depends on the milk production. Further, it's not that every milk that is produced, every drop of milk that is produced reaches consumer through market. Part of it is kept by the farmers themselves, and rest is processed. And we have, my point of talking about this particular thing is there are two sectors which process milk and distributes. One is called organized sector, where milk is collected through a systematic approach from the village farmers in the villages, and then it undergoes a particular method of collection and then transport and process, and ultimately it reaches the customer with a brand name, maybe like Amul or Mother Dairy or whatever it is. That is called organized sector. And we also have unorganized sector, which kind of takes about 70% of our milk. I'm sorry, 1 second, please. I'm sorry about it. But anyway, unorganized sector means, where there is no kind of systematic collection, and then it is supplied by some kind of unorganized structure, which is also called traditional milk marketing in our country. Like, these two-wheelers are unorganized halwais, etc. They contribute to nearly 70% of the available milk.
I'm looking so pretty, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anita, ma'am, can you please mute?
Organizers, can you please request other participants to mute, please?
Thank you.
Yeah. So my point of showing this particular information is, in our country, milk that comes to market is approximately 50%, and rest of the 50% is kept at the household conditions where it is produced. And in the milk that is available for organized sector, and organized sector is divided into cooperative setup, like our Mother Dairy or Amul and Nandini, etc. And rest is by private dairies. Different private dairies also have equal share with respect to processing of milk, like our cooperative federations. And then 70% of the milk is processed or marketed through unorganized sector. Yeah, and then with respect to utilization pattern, most of the milk that is supplied to our consumers is in the form of liquid milk, and ghee takes 1/3 of the share. Like, first number one product that comes to the market is liquid milk, and next product is ghee. 1/3 of the milk that is converted to products is in the form of ghee. And then if you look at the importance of milk and milk products in the Indian food basket, we spend approximately 30% on cereals, and the next best expenditure goes towards milk and milk products, approximately 17 to 23%, depending on rural or urban areas. An average Indian consumer spends on milk and milk products, which is second to the consumption of, expenditure towards cereals in the food basket. When we talk about nutritional and health assurance, I would like to emphasize that milk is an essential food which is packed with a lot of nutrients and provide an excellent nutrition. With respect to malnourishment, etc., we feel that milk is an excellent source of providing different nutritional elements. Briefly, if I had to present to you, we require protein, fat, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals in our day-to-day diet. And then if you take 2 servings of milk, which is approximately half a liter of milk, because one serving, according to international agencies, is considered about common words. So 2 glasses of milk, if we consume, nearly 27% of our protein requirement comes, because for us, every day we need to consume some amount of protein, which we call recommended daily allowance. Similarly, some amount of fat needs to be consumed, some amount of carbohydrates need to be consumed, and same is the case with respect to vitamins and minerals, so that we can keep our health well. So when we speak about this RDA, that is recommended daily allowance, 2 servings of milk can give us 27%, 1/4 of our protein requirement. And mind you, protein of milk is of excellent quality. And similarly, 2 servings of milk, a normal toned milk, which is about 3% fat, can give us 50% of our fat requirements and 40% of vitamin A and things like that. And here I would like to tell you that, when compared to plant proteins, animal proteins are the best with respect to essential amino acid supply and many other factors. And animal foods do contain many other nutrients as well. But in the Indian context, 40% of the people are supposed to be vegetarian, and remaining 60% non-vegetarians don't consume non-vegetarian food so regularly. According to international agencies, meat consumption by non-vegetarian Indian population is less than 5 kilo per year, which puts us second lowest in the world with respect to non-vegetarian food consumption. So in this regard, when I say that, foods from animals like eggs, milk, etc., meat, etc., are very important in providing some of the nutritional constants. And considering the fact that majority of the population are vegetarians and remaining non-vegetarians do not consume non-vegetarian food so regularly, milk becomes an excellent source of nutrition. Milk also comes from animal sources, packed with many, good quality proteins, fat, and vitamins and minerals. As a matter of fact, vitamin B12, whose deficiency can cause, some kind of anemia, megaplastic anemia, we call, is available only in animal foods. Plant foods do not contain vitamin B12. So that emphasizes the role of milk in our nutrition, day-to-day nutrition. And then I just want to give you a small example with respect to calcium. We require calcium, approximately 800 milligrams of calcium, and on average we require per day. Of course, requirement varies from the group, like pregnant women and lactating mothers may need a little more. But anyway, if you take on an average 800 milligrams of calcium is RDA, we get this particular calcium from 660 ml of milk, or 6 kilos of meat, or 3 kilos of tomato, or 30 eggs. What I'm trying to tell you here is not to belittle or make small of other foods, but milk becomes an excellent source of calcium, and that too in an absorbable state. And again, calcium and phosphorus are present more or less in 1:1 ratio, especially in cow milk, which makes it much more important, because in our body also calcium and phosphorus are present approximately in 1:1 ratio. And coming to health, a lot of talk is being made about the role of milk in causing several diseases, especially atherosclerosis and cardiac diseases. Scientific evidence, this platform, time is not enough to discuss all those health aspects, etc. Maybe some other time. But definitely, I would like to tell you here, most of the information that is spread through social media is not correct. Milk doesn't cause any kind of heart disease. It is scientific evidence. Milk contains many constants, especially like calcium and potassium, which are considered antihypertensive, and a number of constituents present exclusively in milk, like butyric acid and conjugated linoleic acid, etc., are shown to be anti-carcinogenic. And then the calcium, as I mentioned, which is present in a good quantity in milk, and 2 servings or 3 servings of milk can give us the entire calcium required, obviously can alleviate osteoporosis, which is due to calcium deficiency in the food. And then I know it also reduces obesity. I will not go into the details, but milk has got short chain fatty acids which do not get absorbed into subcutaneous tissue and cause obesity. 25% of the milk fat fatty acids get absorbed into liver, where they are converted to energy rather than getting deposited in the adipose tissue. And that is the reason why milk fat causes or ghee causes less obesity when compared to the counterpart edible oils. And then our own work has shown that biopeptides produced from milk proteins can also prevent diabetes. One of the very famous diabetologists based in Chennai, who is even Padma Shri awardee, has done a study in 21 countries, encompassing about 1.5 lakh patients for 11 years. They showed that consumption of milk with high fat also does not cause metabolic syndrome, which is a combination of different ailments like blood pressure, obesity, and things like that, sugar, etc. So this clearly shows that dairy products do not cause any kind of health hazard as generally thought by many people. As a matter of fact, the scientific evidence shows that consumption of milk and milk products is good for our health. And then in recent times, in the pandemic times, since last 2 years, a lot of information is generated with respect to development of immunity and which food is good for immunity, etc. Many international agencies like World Health Organization and our own NIN have recommended that consumption of milk, because of the proteins and many other nutrients, can improve the immunity. And dairy industry in our country also has come up by blending milk with many other natural herbs and spices which can increase immunity, like tulsi, ginger, and haldi, etc., bringing out different variants of milk. Milk is being used as a vehicle to translate these herbal principles into our system so that our immunity becomes better. Okay, having talked about the health importance and nutritional significance of milk and milk products, let us quickly talk about the core theme of this particular national workshop being conducted by Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences of University of Delhi on detection of adulteration of milk and milk products. Yeah, why does anyone adulterate milk? There is a demand and supply gap. Initially, I have shown that there is a kind of we have reached that supply sufficiently over the demand. But having said that, but still there is a lot of demand, in the sense that every day, every family requires milk in some or the other quantity. Maybe the quantity varies, but definitely everybody more or less buys milk and consumes milk. So there is an everyday requirement of milk. So if somebody adulterates it, still it is being bought, and then that is what I mean by demand. And as I've said, unorganized procurement is about 70% in our country, where there is no control, what kind of milk is procured and how it is handled, whether it is hygienic or otherwise. None of us know anything about that particular aspect. So there is a tremendous scope in the unorganized sector for adulteration of milk. And as you all know, milk has got a perishable nature. So to extend the shelf life of milk, one may resort to different kinds of additives which extend the shelf life, which is harmful to our health. This type of additives are harmful for our health. And then many other reasons. I'll not go into the details. You all know that why milk is adulterated. But the last point I would definitely like to mention here is there are methods to detect adulteration of milk, as it will be demonstrated to you towards the end of this particular session today. But then there are a number of clever people who adulterate the milk with such a kind of substances for which there is no method, or the method is not sensitive enough to detect the level at which they are added. So that kind of intelligence or kind of cleverness, when it is there in the unscrupulous traders, we can imagine the plight of a common consumer, especially the milk that is procured through unorganized sector. So continuing with this, why milk is adulterated, basically, anybody wants to increase the quantity. Supposing if you want to increase the quantity of tea powder, you add some spent tea or certain things, or any type of adulteration. When we were children, we used to see people has to add some kind of small pebbles or stones in rice or wheat, etc. So that is basically to increase the quantity of any particular commodity, and milk is no exception. And if you want to increase the quantity of milk, the best thing is add water. And then at the same time, when you add water to milk, some of the constants present in milk get reduced, their percentage gets reduced. So what do? They add certain other cheaper substances not belonging to the milk, milk commodity, from some other, like starch and urea and things like that. So that apparent total solids, what we call total solids, that is solids other than water, their level increases apparently, not really. And then, as I've said, milk has got a perishable nature, so you extend the shelf life by adding certain things. And then, as you all know, everyone knows that milk becomes sour on storing at room temperature. So same thing can happen when milk is being transported from one place to another place, especially in non-insulated or not through cold chain. So in such cases, to avoid the detection of such sour milk, people add certain things. Okay, as I've said, water is added, but then it reduces the fat and SNF. So what do they do is, fat has got a wide range, in the sense, in a particular form, fat can range from something like 7% to 3.5 to 4%. So the range is wide. So upon addition of water, one may not be able to detect into fat because it meets the legal standards. For example, if legal standard is 3.5 or 3, they can adulterate milk to such an extent that it's not possible. For instance, buffalo milk has got 7% fat. Cow milk has got about 3.5 fat percent in cow milk. So I can take buffalo milk, add water to that, and add to cow milk, so that the cow milk percentage still is retained, and I can sell it as cow milk. This is often done in very urban dairy systems where they keep 10 cows and 1 buffalo so that they can adulterate easily. But SNF does not vary like that between buffalo and cow also, maybe 8.5% difference. So SNF comes down drastically, and once anybody estimates SNF, they can tell that this particular milk is adulterated, because there will be a very significant decrease with respect to SNF. SNF means solids, not fat. Other than fat, whatever solids are there in milk, like proteins, carbohydrates, minerals, we consider it as solids, not fat, and we abbreviate it as SNF, solids, not fat. So once SNF comes down, one can easily detect it is below 8.5%, etc. So what do? They add certain substances like maltodextrins, starch. I think starch will be shown in your demonstration today. Glucose, sucrose, urea from the fertilizers, common salt, etc., to increase the SNF apparently, because the method is based on specific gravity determination for calculating SNF. So if I add when we add water, specific gravity comes down. To boost up the specific gravity, you add some some substances like this in a very small quantity. The specific gravity increases. Once the specific gravity increases, when we calculate SNF, looks normal or apparent. Obviously the SNF apparently has increased, not because of solids, not fat of milk, but because of increase in specific gravity by adding some of these substances. And then, milk fat being very expensive, when you compare the price of any edible oil like groundnut oil or mustard oil or anything, ghee, which is also a fat, is considerably more expensive, costing about 3 to 4 times more than the edible oils. So it's a profitable proportion if I remove milk fat from milk through some kind of process called separation and add certain other cheaper oils like cheaper palm oils, etc., which are available in the market. For that, I need to emulsify, because fat is in a natural state, it is in an emulsified state. If I remove cream from milk, if I have to add any other cheaper fats, I need to resort to emulsification through detergents. Even common detergents like shampoos, detergents, etc., will do that purpose, so that the fat that is additionally added in the form of cheaper vegetable oils can easily blend in milk, and nobody can know that it has got a kind of fat which is not natural to milk. So there is one more class of adulterant which is called synthetic milk. The name itself is misnomer in our view, because any common consumer, a gullible or an innocent consumer, thinks that this particular milk also is milk, but probably it is being synthesized in a factory in a much better fashion, etc. So the name itself is wrong. But this particular thing started, I believe, in Kurukshetra in Haryana as a cottage industry, where people have developed a recipe by adding cheaper vegetable oils and then skim milk powder, cheaper skim milk powder, sugar, urea, and concoction. The recipe is like, it varies depending on to what extent you can use cheaper substances and blend them. Initially, it started in a mixer grinder, and now up to vertical blenders people are using. So they blend all these constants with water, and you get a fluid which looks like milk, whitish color and thick fluid, but it doesn't taste or smell like milk. So one cannot sell that as milk. So what do? They add this in different proportion to normal liquid milk and sell it. And to what extent they can blend depends on the successfulness of the recipe, which makes this particular synthetic milk bland without any kind of odd flavor due to the chemicals that they add. So this particular so-called synthetic milk is made in, it's like a cottage industry. It is mushrooming everywhere. Now they prepare this kind of liquid and add to normal milk so that people can consume it without any kind of curling. All of you know that when milk becomes sour due to storage for long hours at room temperature, acidity develops in milk, which we call sourness in common language, and then it curdles eventually, whether you heat it or without heating also it curdles. So if the acidity is too high, even if room temperature, it will curdle eventually. So to avoid that kind of curdling, which can neutralize the acidity, acidity is produced naturally in milk because of the bacterial action, which and bacteria grow rampantly at room temperature. So that's the reason why milk is usually boiled and kept in refrigerator in household conditions. So when these people do not follow cold chain system or clean milk production protocols, which are required, like improper cleaning of vessels which are used for collection of milk, storage, etc. So acidity obviously develops because of unhygienic conditions, and bacteria grow and acidity develops. So to avoid detection of that acidity either through an objective test or by a subjective test like sensory evaluation, or to avoid curdling of milk, they add some neutralizers like alkaline materials like washing soda, cooking soda, caustic soda, etc. And even they try to add some substances which do not allow the growth of bacteria like formalin, hydrogen peroxides, antibiotics, etc. So this is also very bad kind of adulteration, in the sense any of these substances can cause serious sickness in the persons who consume such kind of milk which is added with this type of alkaline materials or preservatives. So a lot of information is available in the media, YouTube, etc. about the adulteration which is becoming, especially, rampant, especially in the unorganized sector. So I'll not go into the details. If you Google it, you'll get plenty of such information how milk is adulterated, not only in our country and many countries. So therefore, just to know what is the status of our milk with respect to quality, with respect to the presence of adulterants, etc., Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has conducted a survey in 2018 and then released this particular report in 2019, which is available in their website. They have collected pan-India, covering more or less all the states and union territories, about 600,000 of milk, 600,000 samples of milk, then got them analyzed in an accredited laboratory like Vinta Labs in Hyderabad, and they tested for different parameters, including adulterants and contaminants, etc. Contaminants are different from that of adulterants in the sense they are naturally present, like antibiotic residues, pesticide residues, aflatoxin M1, etc. So the results showed that, with respect to safety issue, in the sense maybe fat and SNF have come down slightly than the standards imposed by the FSSA, such a thing will not become a safety issue, because by reducing fat or SNF by some small amount of percentage, we are not going to lose our health, but definitely the quality is bad for the amount that a consumer pays. And then 234 samples of milk out of the milk samples that were analyzed, they found that they were with safety issues like addition of some urea, maltodextrin, etc., etc. So that means some reasonably good amount of milk samples were also found to be adulterated with respect to some of these unsafe substances which are added. But having said that, their previous report, which was released in 2011, and if you make a comparison of 2011 report and 2018 report, FSSA concludes that by and large, milk, especially obtained through organized sector, is by far very safe, and then it is not a serious concern. But then still, let us see, what kind of conclusions we can draw. But as per the 2018 survey, it is not an alarming situation when compared to what it was a few years back. I think day to day the monitoring and vigilance, etc., are improving so that such a kind of adulteration is not going to happen. With respect to milk and milk products, milk is the ghee, because ghee, as I've said, is very expensive. And during festive seasons, paneer and khova are also adulterated. You can see in TV, lots of reports keep coming about khova being adulterated and found out, and paneer, etc. Because during festive seasons like Deepavali, there is a lot of demand for pedas and burfis, which are made using khova. So the demand automatically kind of uh, makes some unscrupulous traders to make good buck on that demand. And they find adulteration is the best method, which can affect the health and of consumers, and the quality of products made from such products is not good. Anyway, now having said that, adulteration happens, and according to FSSA, it is not very rampant, especially when consumers are vigilant and buy products of good quality. Such a situation may not arise. But in case adulteration does happen, and then as I've said, it is happening. So how do we detect? So there are many methods, conventional liquid-based methods, which we call wet chemistry. Like you take a sample of milk, add a particular reagent, and you will see a color. Then we can say that it is positive or negative, etc. Like if I add water to milk, and then to go undetected through that is considered a wet chemistry method. I think that will be demonstrated to you. And then subsequently, this wet chemistry principles are applied which can help us to detect adulteration, and then certain new things like lateral flow assays, and then rapid detection DART, as given by FSSA. Probably some of those methods under DART will be shown to you in live demonstration. So rapid detection, household methods, etc. When I talk about household methods, I'm very skeptical here. I was speaking to Professor Rao also about it. The people who adulterate, earlier days they used to adulterate helter-skelter, and then without detect the presence of adulterant. But today, I must tell you, even the people who adulterate are so very intelligent, and some of them may be professionally educated, so they know what type of method can detect to what extent and for what, so cleverly that even in the laboratory, sometimes it becomes very difficult when we subject the sample to series of analysis also. We are not able to come to a conclusion. It is like a criminal who does a crime very intelligently, and law enforcing authorities like police are not able to detect that kind of crime. So that's how, because for them it is a survival, and it is money, and it is avoiding the punishment. So they do it very cleverly, so that detection becomes sometimes very difficult. So to that extent, what I mean to say is, sometimes some of these adulteration techniques that are followed by these unscrupulous traders, detection of such things may be not very easy in household methods, but consumers have certain other rights through which they can still try to help the law enforcing authorities to see that such kind of things do not happen. Okay, this is wet chemistry. As I mentioned, for example, if formalin is added, how it gives an yellow color when compared to control. If there is hydrogen peroxide, how it gives a deep blue color when we add a reagent. And when we add neutralizer, as I was mentioning, caustic soda or washing soda, how it can give a rose red color when you add a particular reagent. Starch gives violet or blue color upon addition of iodine, and then sugar gives a rose red color upon addition of acid and resorcinol and things like that. But most of these tests, though look simple test tube methods, in household conditions, it may not be very easy to detect or use them for detection, in the sense many of them require chemicals like, corrosive chemicals like alkalis and acids. And we do not recommend in household conditions to use those acids and alkalines, and it involves heating. And then some of them involve heating. So we really do not recommend the use of these wet chemistry principles in household conditions. Probably some of them, like As I've said repeatedly, maybe starch detection is easy because even with the help of tincture iodine, which you keep as a first aid, medicine in the household conditions for treating skin wounds, etc., could be used to detect starch. But here also people add starch in such a fashion, hydrolyzed fashion, like maltodextrins. So iodine does not give blue color when maltodextrins are added. So as I've said, they also are very clever. They know that by addition of iodine, we can detect the starch. So they add starch in some other fashion. So this test gives a negative, which we consider as a false negative test. So, and the same principles of your wet chemistry, where we need to prepare the reagents in the laboratory and then use them very carefully. So some commercial organizations, including NDRI, have come up with a kit where all these reagents are prepared and kept in a ready to use form, in the form of kit bottles. So where one can use these chemicals present in the kit bottles to detect the presence of starch, sugar, and things like that, including pond water. Many people find pond water, especially in rural condition, is better than regular water because pond water is viscous and thick. So it does not reduce the specific gravity like a clean water. So similarly, there are many other, as I've said, neutralizers and some preservatives, etc. How they can be detected using these kits. These kits are available, but then even in household conditions, their use should be under some kind of guidance. They should not be used the way in the sense they should not be used without any. They should be used with appropriate care and guidance. What I mean, because some of them are corrosive. And then similarly, certain other commercial organizations, in addition to NDRI, like Benny Impacts, and then many such companies have come out with these kits, including National Dairy Development Board. Again, most of these kits are used not by household conditions. They are not recommended for household conditions. They are recommended for field level testing. Why these kits are made available is basically for field level test. For example, in a laboratory, we can use them using wet chemistry principles or equipment or some of the sophisticated technologies or methods. But in a field level, where I would like to know whether in this particular village, whether any milk is adulterated or not, if I want to know, I cannot take all my experts and equipment, etc., to a village level, which involves a lot of issues. So whereas if I have simple kits, that becomes easy for me at least to test in field level qualitatively whether this particular milk passes with respect to the presence of adulterants or not. So these kits are meant for field level testing by the dairies. As I've said, several such kits are available. This is one by Biosil. And this is a method to detect detergent. As I mentioned, detergent becomes an important component when people prepare synthetic milk, because in synthetic milk, water and external fat like cheaper palm oils, etc., are used to make the fat, disperse properly in the aqueous medium. They need to use detergent, and detergents, a lot of cheaper detergents are used. So a method was developed wherein you can detect the presence of a detergent, which is an essential component in synthetic milk. Like, a kind of adulterated milk with detergent gives deep blue color when compared to control milk or pure milk. And this is a simple technique. Probably this can be used even in your dark testing, etc. And soya milk, which is a plant milk, I should not use milk for soya anyway, as per as regulatory definitions. But anyway, certain techniques have been developed to detect the presence of cheaper soya extract in milk. And then one important development that has happened recently at NDRA is the development of strips. The principle in this particular test is, as I was mentioning, in wet chemistry, we take milk and add a kind of reagent to milk and maybe heat or without heating, incubate or without incubation, we may get a color based on which we say that this particular sample of milk is positive for adulterants or otherwise. So the same principle to enhance the use of these wet chemistry principles at field level in a much easier fashion than the kits I was mentioning about, strips were developed. What is done is a filter paper strip is taken, and then that is impregnated with the reagents I was talking about. Maybe like, iodine solution in the case of detection of starch. You impregnate at a particular place on the tissue, on this particular strip of paper with iodine. So place a drop of milk on the strip. As the milk travels along the strip of the paper and reaches the line at which this iodine solution is found, then it gives immediately a blue color. So this is called a strip-based method, where you can easily do this particular test in field level, probably even in household conditions. So this is, like pure milk, and this particular paper was impregnated with a reagent. So the intensity of intensity of that particular band or circle, you can see it is less adulterated, it is more adulterated, it is heavily adulterated with that particular adulterant for which this particular test is being done. So this particular strip-based methodology is basically based using wet chemistry principles, but much more useful. It is something like, strips that we use to detect the glucose level or to measure the glucose level in blood in diabetic cases in the household conditions, glucometer. So you take a strip and then put a drop of milk and insert into the equipment, the glucometer, and it tells us the reading. Here, the quantity is not shown, but qualitatively we can know it is positive or not. Unlike glucose, where we would like to know the level, whether it is 100 milligrams per deciliter or otherwise, here the presence of an adulterant is considered as non-complying with the regulations. So therefore, we are not bothered to know about the quantity. Mere presence itself is sufficient for the sample to be discarded, considering it is adulterated and does not meet the regulations. So again, these are different strips for neutralizers. This is positive, this is negative, urea positive and negative, hydrogen peroxide positive and negative, glucose, maltodextrin, sucrose, etc. So these strips are available for the detection of many such adulterants, including neutralizers and preservatives, so that it becomes very easy for anyone to detect the presence of adulterants, not the quantity. As I've said, we are not bothered whether what is the quantity. We are only bothered that it should not be there. The mere presence is itself an offense. Okay, so these kits are not now available in different, with different commercial forms. One such is Delmos. So they kind of bought this technology from India, and then they make these kits available, as I've said, for neutralizers, hydrogen peroxide, glucose, maltodextrins, etc. Even in household conditions, it can be seen, or in organizations, academic institutions like Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences can buy these techniques and show to the students how easily they can detect adulteration in your demonstrations. And then these are equipments, like different equipments are available. I'll not go into the details. Indifos is one of the leading equipments, wherein you can detect by simply keeping a sample of milk with respect to composition, as well as the presence of several adulterants like urea, sucrose, water, maltodextrins, etc. This is another instrument where again one can detect the presence of adulterants. And then this Rajasthan Electronics and Instruments Limited, a public sector company of Rajasthan, has pioneered in India regarding commercialization of equipment for milk testing. So they also do that. This is Ksheerasagar, which was launched by President of India a few years ago, where this particular technology can also use, this instrument can use to detect the presence of urea, salt, detergents, etc. These levels indicate the sensitivity at which it can work. This is again another equipment. And then another important aspect is species adulteration. With respect to FSSA earlier, milk is milk, like any kind of milk, etc. In India, according to FSSA, we have 5 species whose milk can be considered as milk, like cows, buffaloes, goats, sheep, and then camel. So there is a demand for a particular species of milk, or there is a preference by a sector, by a section of consumers for a particular milk. Let us say camel milk, which is a recent entry. A lot of health attributes are given to this particular camel milk. It is anti-diabetic, it is immunity building, etc. And then it is very expensive. Amul also markets camel milk. So what one can do is they can mix some other milk with camel milk and trade it as camel milk. Or same is the case with goat milk, which is also considered nutraceutical. So one can do interspecies mixing and can sell it as a particular thing. As I was mentioning, you can add water to buffalo milk and add to cow milk and sell it as cow milk, so that becomes a form of adulteration. So there is a lot of interest that is generated nowadays to find out whether this particular milk, what I am buying, is really camel milk or goat milk or whatever it is. So a lot of technologies have come using lateral flow immunoassays, etc., where they are trying to find out the presence of one species milk in other milk. In fact, in India in 1960s, a test was developed based on immunological principles, similar to that of our blood test, blood group testing, whether it is A group or B group or AB group or O group or Rh positive or Rh negative, how a diagnostic laboratory with the help of a microscopic slide and taking 2-3 drops of our blood, they determine which group we belong to. Same way, one particular test in 1960s was developed, which was called Hamsa test, logically, because or probably coinciding with the name of Hamsa. Hamsa is a mythological bird which was supposed to, or which is supposed to separate water from milk. So based on that mythological bird's name, a test was developed where addition of buffalo milk to cow milk could be detected. So because cow milk in those days was preferred for cheese preparation, and if somebody sells milk, cow milk added with buffalo milk, and then if somebody makes cheese and at the end of 6 months, which is the ripening period for cheddar cheese, you will find that cheese has not ripened well because that particular milk was blended with buffalo milk, because cow milk gives good cheddar cheese. So to avoid such things, this particular test was developed, and now it is being developed into a strip-based method, which is called lateral flow immunoassay, and then it is in the form of development now. And lateral flow assay for many other things. I just wanted to show you what kind of developments have taken place in the detection of adulteration, from household level of adulteration in the laboratory using high sophisticated, including species milk, and I'll come a little later about even breeds. So that is the kind of demand that today we have. I want to know whether it is pure camel milk or a goat milk or Holstein Friesian milk or Gir cow milk or Sahiwal milk, etc. So that is the reason why a lot of technologies are being developed, because there is a demand for a particular species and breeds milk, and then one can add other species milk and sell it as so and so species milk, and that is the reason why these technologies are being developed. And then I'll also talk about ghee adulteration a little bit. As I said, after liquid milk, ghee is the next product in quantities produced in our country, and ghee occupies a separate place in our Indian context. And then there is a lot of demand and supply, gap between demand and supply. As I've said, it is very expensive, 4 to 5 times more expensive than vegetable oils. Nowadays, vegetable oils are also expensive. Maybe we can say 3 times more expensive. So that is the reason why people adulterate. And then a lot of substances are used to adulterate ghee, like vegetable oils, vanaspati, which is hydrogenated plant oils. Probably if I say dalda, you will understand that dalda is a brand name for vanaspati. Animal body fats like tallow and lard, blend of plant oils and animal body fats, and several things. And colors are also not permitted in ghee, because there is a separate place religiously or otherwise for cow ghee in our country. So if buffalo milk, as you all know, is white and cow milk is yellow. So when you make butter out of buffalo milk, it is white in appearance, and then cow butter is yellow in appearance. So to make buffalo butter or buffalo ghee look like cow ghee, one may add colors. So that means we are deceiving the consumer, selling buffalo ghee like cow ghee. So that is the reason why colors are also not permitted in ghee. For example, where I have been working for long as honorary member in Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanams, Tirupati, most of you are familiar about this Balaji temple in Andhra Pradesh, where they buy 15 tons of cow ghee for their use to make laddu, etc. So they are very particular religiously that they must use only cow ghee. So if somebody adds color to buffalo ghee and sells it as a cow ghee, you are deceiving them, probably even the devotees who go there. So that is it for some of the reasons, not for Tirupati alone. Even in domestic conditions, cow ghee has got a separate place, maybe for Homa, Yajna, whatever it is. That's the reason why, considering the importance of cow ghee, colors are not permitted in the case of ghee. So addition of color is considered as an adulteration in the case of ghee. So a number of methods are there, and recently in FSSA, we have added some more methods which will help the detection of adulteration to a greater extent, because the present methods are not able to detect adulteration. As I've said, a clever blender will make ghee in such an adulterated fashion that many of the analyses are not able to detect the presence of such adulterants. So we have given more teeth to the regulation, so that the combination of all these methods will help us to detect the presence of adulterants in this important product. And then this is probably, I can consider it as a white collar adulteration. Recently we have unearthed this. And then what they have done is, it's not just adulteration in unorganized sector, what I was talking about, unorganized sector. What they do is, these first two on the left side of the screen are duplicate packets, and this is the original packet. This is a very famous brand in South, and it is now pan-India also, it is available. So what they have done is they have made the film itself resembling that of the original film, and then they have filled this with some spurious ghee and then started selling through the distributors itself. So a lot of cases, and then police and so many people got involved in catching them in right time, and then the case is going on. So what I mean is, it is not just unorganized sector what you procure. It is even sometimes a retailer may be selling a spurious product in a pack which looks like a genuine packet. So that's where customers or consumers need to see the packet very carefully and from where they are buying. What to do? This is the situation today, that we need to be very careful in buying things from good stores, and then don't get lured by discounts that are being given, because some of the popular brands never give discount. So if they give discount, that means in a very cheaply they are selling. So one should be very, very careful about the quality of such materials. So how to prevent adulteration, if you conclude, because this is the theme of the, national workshop being organized. So I thought I'll just talk about the adulteration. So milk and milk products, which are the important food products in our diet and culture, need to be protected against adulteration, especially milk being a food which is consumed by infants to invalids and elderly persons, young people, pregnant mothers, pregnant women, lactating mothers, everyone. We need to protect this particular, food, which is important. A number of approaches are there. Instead of trying to find out the presence of adulterant in a particular food product, it is better to be proactive. Maybe we have to use our surveillance systems or intelligence services. Like, what I say, a crime is prevented by our intelligence agencies. Much before it happens, they try to find out. Same way, we should have such an intelligence service where adulteration is rather prevented, rather than you detect it later and then try to do. By that time, it would have caused God knows what kind of harm. So for that situation, we need regular monitoring, vigilance, and stringent action against the fraudsters. As a matter of fact, sometime back, Supreme Court felt that capital punishment should be awarded to people who adulterate milk and milk products. Anyway, probably considering the China's incident of melamine adulteration, where a lot of kids died because of adulteration of milk with a substance called melamine. And then linkages with academia, like your organization, to search for solutions for quick and precise analysis. And even consumers should play their role. And you have a lot of role to play in preventing such adulteration. Instead of keeping quiet when you find a sample which is adulterated, and feel for a while and then shout for a while, try to do something which brings this kind of fraud to the authorities. Yeah, very quickly I'll go through. Yesterday Mrs. Toteja was talking about different acts in our country, food safety, and do I have some 10 minutes time, please? Organizers, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we have different regulations in our our country. Food Safety and Standards Act, which has come to be implemented, which has been enacted in 2006 and effectively implemented in 2011, is a mandatory act. That means all foods should be as per FSSA, Food Safety and Standards Act. If they have given standards, we should meet those standards. If they are given something in regulation, we have to kind of comply with that kind of regulation. And Bureau of Indian Standards, as Mrs. Toteja was mentioning, etc. Yesterday, it is voluntary, but it is mandatory for certain dairy products and certain food products. The bottle of water you drink, packaged drinking water, Bisleri or Aquafina or whatever it is, if you see, there is an ISA logo on that. So according to FSSA itself, BIS logo or BIS standardization for packaged drinking water is mandatory. Similarly, certain dairy products like condensed milks and then dry products like milk powders, etc., it is mandatory to have BIS certification, while it is voluntary for rest of the products. Agmark, again, butter and ghee, you see Agmark logo on the packet, butter and ghee Agmark, which is a voluntary standard, is given. And then there is an NDDB quality mark logo, about which Professor Rao was mentioning in the beginning. So, the organizer was mentioning in the beginning. Now, on 23rd December, Prime Minister Modi ji has launched this particular logo. Now it is not with NDDB, it is with BIS. So any person, any dairy can approach BIS and get this logo, which shows that this is this product in this particular pack having this logo is assured for quality and safety. And then in case we want to export products, we should have license from Export Inspection Council. And there is, of course, international law called Codex Alimentarius. So, but mainly we are concerned about Food Safety and Standards Act, which is, as I've said, mandatory. So they define what is milk. Milk means it's a normal mammary secretion derived from complete milking of healthy milch animals. Healthy, each word has got a meaning here. Milch animals in our country, as I've said, cows, buffaloes, goats, sheep, and camel, without either addition or removal from that particular milk, and then it should be free from cholesterol. But many people feel that in dairies they remove something, add something, etc. Therefore, milk powder they add, cream they remove, etc. For that reason, FSSA also has given another definition where you can remove, you can add, as long as the constants belong to milk solids. For example, skim milk powder, which is made from milk, can be added to increase the solids not fat content in milk. So as per this, milk which is adjusted for milk fat and milk solid not fat content are both may also be named milk, provided they meet the requirements, etc. So it is not illegal to remove something from milk and add something milk, as long as the addition is from the milk context. With respect to milk, with respect to that this particular addition is from milk. So FSSA gives species standards like cow milk, what should be the minimum fat and minimum SN of buffaloes, goat and sheep, camel, and then in case somebody wants to mix two types of species also, it is allowed, that is called mixed milk. So this type of species standards are there. In addition to that, what you buy in market is mostly toned milk or double toned milk, where it is standardized in the dairy. They bring milk and adjust the fat and SNF content to such an extent that it meets the standards. And then different standards are there for different variants of milk. These are the market variants, 5 types: toned, double toned, standardized, full cream, and skim. And then people may give more than this also. It is up to a particular dairy, but these are the minimum regulations I was mentioning. With respect to skim milk, fat shall not be more than 0.5%, because skim milk is being bought by a section of people who do not want to consume more amount of fat. So in such case, fat is a binding in the sense with respect to level, but in all other cases, it is minimum. More than this also one can keep and sell, but less than this you cannot sell. And then milk products are also defined in FSSA, like, it's a product prepared essentially from milk, and then having all other regulations in place, like, levels of so and so. For example, in the case of ice cream, they say milk fat shall be this much, milk protein shall be this much. And with respect to cane sugar, they say not more than this, because somebody can add more sugar being cheaper than milk solids, and sell a cheaper quality product. So like that, they give a lot of regulations in the form of standards, what a product shall be with respect to fat content, with respect to total solid content, with respect to sugar, with respect to microbiological count, with respect to what kind of additives are permitted in what product and to what extent. For example, colors and flavors, which in flavored milk they are being used. So what type of colors and flavors are permitted, to what level, not more than this, because these additives, which are mostly synthetic in nature, if they are added in large quantities, can create health hazards. So that is the reason why each and everything is regulated and standards are provided by the FSSA. Similarly, with respect to safety, some contaminants like pesticide residues, antibiotic residues, aflatoxin M1, which are considered as necessary evils, because in agriculture we use these things, so they are likely to come into food products. But in case they come, their level shall be lower than a particular limit, which is a safe limit, beyond which it can cause safety issues. That's the reason why, again, the regulatory authority imposes some limits, which we call maximum residue limits, beyond which, if it is found, it is supposed to be non-complying with the regulatory regulation. So similarly, we have certain composite milk products where milk becomes an essential component, but other things can be added. For example, a mango Shrikhand, where mango is also a component, which is a non-dairy ingredient. So regulatory authority considers this also as a dairy product and names it as a composite milk products. Maybe ice cream with fruits, nuts, etc., flavored milks, etc. All these things are considered this thing, but they mention, for example, if you make buttermilk, you cannot add 1 portion of curd and add 5 portions of water and cheat the consumers. So they say Minimum 40% should be from curd part. That means only 1:1.5 addition of water is permitted in the case of buttermilk or chas or lassi, etc. So that's how they regulate even in composite milk products, that the quality is maintained well. At the same time, safety with respect to additives and contaminants also is well regulated. And then there is another class of products called, which has come very recently into enforcing. They're called dairy analogs. There is a classical case. There was a case between Amul and certain other company. So I mean, most of you may be knowing, but most of the consumers do not know. Also, that is the reason why I thought I will explain about this. There are two types of product in the market. One is ice cream, another is frozen dessert. For a common man, they do not know whether they are eating, what they are eating is ice cream or a frozen dessert. Because in ice cream, it is milk fat and milk protein which shall be there, which shall be there. Whereas in the case of frozen dessert, milk fat and milk protein can be replaced partially or wholly with vegetable protein and vegetable fat. So there was a case like this. So then ultimately they thought that instead of keeping frozen dessert along with ice cream, they push it as dairy analog. So dairy analog is defined as a product in which milk constants, which are essential in the dairy product standardized by regulations, is replaced with certain other things, but that organoleptically and technically similar to that of the dairy product, then that particular product is called dairy analog. That means it is a look-alike of the dairy product, but in that the milk constants are replaced by something else. Again, example, classical example here is ice cream and frozen dessert. For example, Quality Walls makes frozen desserts, but most of us think that is also ice cream. So that's where Amul fought a case in Supreme Court and won that particular case. So in FSSA, scientific panel decided that such products which imitate the dairy products and for the knowledge of the consumer, that should be taken as dairy analog. And then one more important, very interesting debate went on in FSSA. We had discussed about this. So then what happened is, according to FSSA, as I have shown in the beginning, milk is defined as that secretion obtained from the lacteal secretion obtained from the milk animals. In the sense, it is essentially coming from dairy animals. Whereas certain plant-based products like soya milk, almond milk, etc., they are in the market. So a lot of discussion and debate went on, and ultimately, as per the regulation, we decided that the term milk shall be used only in dairy context and it shall not be used in plant-based products. So they can use soya beverages, soya extract, or whatever it is, but definitely not the term of milk. But by the time this decision is taken, already in the market, certain names are there like coconut milk, coconut cream, soya curd, etc. So FSSA has decided, and case by case, they will try to do different nomenclature for these things. So our general consumer or common consumer doesn't get confused whether this particular soya milk means whether that has also dairy milk, etc. So that is the reason why the term milk is now restricted by the regulatory authorities only with respect to dairy context. And the example, the names already are there with the dairy names, will be re-looked into by the concern. One last aspect I would like to mention is with respect to labeling. Many of the common consumers do not know what is there inside the product, whether it is good quality or not, etc. So through FSSA regulations on labeling and display regulations, they have given each and every information on the label. In fact, we advise our students also, you read the information on the packet, you will get to know many things. Same advice we try to give to the consumers also, everything. But most of the consumers are interested only in two things. One is price, another is expiry date. But if you really look into that, you will get a plenty of information on the labeling, which is mandatory by FSSA. In fact, from 1st July 2022, there will be more information on the labeling. For example, if I were to tell from 1st July, already it is there, but some of the new things that are added, including that, I will just tell you. Name of the food, it shall be clearly mentioned. Example I have given as full cream milk. And then what are the ingredients present in that particular product? Like, milk solids. In the case of milk, we write it as milk solids. And in case there are any other ingredients, they should also be listed in the descending order of their appearance. For example, starting from highest level to the lowest level. And nutritional information, they should give per 100 ml or per 100 gram or per pack in case the pack size is smaller than 100 ml. And then percentage RDA per serving. That means you have to define what is the serving size Like, for example, if I sell 1 liter of milk, if I say 200 ml is the serving size is 200 ml, and this pack contains 5 servings. So per serving, what is the percentage of nutrients it gives? How much percentage? Let's say 1000 milligrams is the calcium requirement. How much percentage of 1000 milligrams I get from one serving? If I require 2000 kilocalories of energy, this one serving gives me how much percentage of that 2000 kilocalories, etc. And then vegetarian and non-vegetarian logo, it is not applicable for milk. I'll explain that. And food additives, in case any colors, flavors, stabilizers, etc. are there, they need to be mentioned very clearly, whether it is artificial flavors or natural flavors or whatever it is. And name and address of the manufacturer and marketer with FSSA license number. FSSA license number is mandatory. Obtaining a license from the regulatory authorities mandatory. And then net quantity, retail price, and now even unit price needs to be given. I'll come to that a little later. And in case you have some complaints, whom do you talk to? Whom do you talk to? The name of the person or designation, address, email ID, phone number, etc. And then what is the batch identification? Because if you need to complain, you have to tell this particular sample what I bought belongs to this particular batch. And then when it is manufactured, when it will be expired. Now, till now, best before is there, but best before becomes optional. One has to mention the expiry date or use by date now. And then in case of imported food, some other information needs to be given, like country of origin, etc. Instructions for use, in case you want to advise the consumer, like, how to cook a Maggi noodles or where to store it and when to, what type of information you want to give, instructions for usage, etc. And then food allergens. This is again a new class. Like, many people are allergic. Some people may be allergic to milk. Some people may be nuts. Some people may be to some crustacean products, etc. So some of the common allergens are notified by regulatory authorities, and one has to mention under food allergen category. And in the case of non-human foods, I will explain it a little later, what kind of information needs to be given. So this labeling requirements is from 3 angles with respect to labeling. One is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, and another is legal metrology. I'll not go into the details. And then plastic waste management, in case the package is waste. So much of information is available on the labeling if only we see and then use it appropriately. And then this is nutritional information, how to give, etc. Only one example I'll take. In case I need 2000 kilocalories of energy, which is stipulated by FSSA on an average. So if I consume 1 serving of milk of full cream, 200 ml is 1 serving, it gives me 173.6 kilocalories of energy, which is equivalent to 8.68 of that 2000 kilocalories. So same information is given with respect to proteins, fat, and saturated fat, and everything. So consumer will get to know, when I drink this amount of milk, what kind of percentage of my requirement is met by consumption of this 1 serving. And especially this is very useful for diabetic people. They will know what is the amount of added sugar. Let's say flavored milk, 14%, 8% sugar is added. So 200 ml of milk will give you nearly 20 grams of sugar. So is it advisable for a diabetic person? Same is the case with hypertensive people with respect to sodium. So they tell what is the amount of sodium present and what is the amount of our percentage of sodium from your RDA comes through this particular serving. So considering 2000 milligrams of sodium as RDA. So coming to this particular logo, in the case of foods sourced from animals, it should have a brown dot. From 1st July 2022, from brown circle, it is going to become a triangle for non-vegetarian foods. Non-vegetarian food means any food which is obtained from, sourced from animals, including birds, insects, etc., and all the type of things. Exception is milk, honey, etc. Honey also comes from insects. Milk and honey, etc., need not have non-vegetarian logo, this brown circular brown triangle, because milk is considered far superior to vegetarian food. So milk and milk powders need not have any dot. If you see a packet of milk, it will not have any green dot or brown circle on the food. Milk products, as long as they do not contain any additive also which is sourced from animals like gelatin, etc., it is absolutely milk or plant-based ingredients are used in the preparation of that products, can have a green dot. So that means milk and milk products are exceptional with or they are considered vegetarian or beyond vegetarian with respect to regulation. Even egg food can have, should have brown triangle. Only thing is many vegetarians also consume without any restriction on egg. So on the pack they can say the animal ingredient here is from egg, etc. So those who do not have objection to consume egg, they will understand that brown triangle is with reference to the use of egg solids and not other animal based foods. And then I was telling about non-human foods. There are many foods, many food look alike products available in the market, like when you buy ghee or in temples or oil, etc., which is different from that of edible oil that is meant only for lighting deepas, etc. So such things are water, puja water, etc., which may not be safe enough for consumption. Such products which have a look alike of our normal food products will have a cross mark like this to show that this is not meant for human consumption from July 1st, 2022. And then, as I mentioned, food allergens, a number of substances are considered allergic. So those people who are sensitive to consumption of such foods will get to know that this particular food contains this. For example, cereals containing gluten or crustacean products or egg products or fish products or nuts. Many people are allergic to nuts as well. Soybean, sulfite, and milk products also. So on the label, you have to mention food allergen contains milk, food allergen contains nuts, as the case may be. And then some products like milk powder, etc., which are reconstituted and consumed, clearly they should meant not to be used for infants below 6 months, because many people think milk product is similar to that of milk powder is similar to that of infant food. So that will not match with infant food. So clearly it shall be mentioned that not for infants below 6 months, and then certain other labeling requirements. And from 1st July 2022, as per Indian legal metrology, it is nothing concerned with FSSAI, but then Indian metrology is going to mention, is going to impose from 1st April, not from 1st July. They say in addition to MRP, also have to give you a unit price. For example, I go to supermarket and I compare. One is 500 grams, another is 600 grams. Two different MRPs are there. I will not know whose rate per gram per se is cheaper. So I'll keep on mentally calculating which is cheaper. So to avoid that thing, they have to give the unit price, let's say per gram, if it is less than a kilogram or less than a liter per ml. In case it is more than a kilogram per kilogram, etc., one has to mention. Some of the e-commerce sites like Amazon, etc., already are giving per piece, per gram, etc., unit price. So you will know by comparison which is economical for you to buy. So another rule that comes from into effect from 1st July is, as I mentioned, for the common consumer to know what they're eating is ice cream or a frozen dessert or a dairy product or a dairy analog or whatever it is. So they are going to impose that all dairy products, as far as standardized dairy products according to FSSA, will have this logo on that. This blue rectangle with a drop of milk inside inscribed as milk and do. So a common consumer also will know, not just by nomenclature, by this particular logo, what they are eating is a dairy product or a non-dairy product which looks like a dairy product. In addition to that, certain other logos like fortification, milk is now fortified with vitamin A and D. So people should know that F logo and organic and BIS or Agmark as quality mark of NDDB, what I was mentioning, which will be now BIS logo. So all these logos also will be there on the principal display panel. In addition to that, the word pure can be used if it is absolutely single ingredient. There is no other ingredient, for example, milk and ghee. But some people, what they do is they put these fancy names as brand name. For example, there is one particular thing, Dabur, they market one product called real juice. So consumer thinks that it is a real juice obtained from so and so fruit, etc., etc. So therefore, if that is a brand name and may not really coincide with what is there in the product quality, so they have to give a disclaimer stating that this is only a brand name or trademark and does not present its true nature. Violation of this particular rule attracts a penalty of 10 lakh rupees. So a small more, some more information nowadays. People talk about A1 and A2, desi milk, crossbreed milk, etc. So I thought for the benefit of the consumers, common consumers, let me just talk about this for 2 minutes. So A1 and A2 are two different proteins. They are genetic variants. Some animals may have A1, some animals may have A2. Some kind of research went in UK in the lab-based research where they said A1 is a risk factor for some of the diseases. So A2 became automatically a hero, and a lot of people started selling A2 at a higher price. But today, Government of India, through different schemes and projects, exclusively conducted a lot of research, and it is shown conclusively that there is no cause and effect relationship between the disease incidence and A1 consumption. And then there is no scientific evidence, therefore, to establish that A1 milk is bad for health. Unfortunately, in India, our cow breeds, especially indigenous breeds, and most of the cross breeds and buffaloes give A2 milk. So we are in no way considered with respect to health. But in India, also a lot of people sell this so-called A2 milk and this milk, both small players as well as big players. Probably earlier they were thinking that A2 is better. So even Amul, etc., many people are marketing this particular A2 milk. Okay, it is fine, no issues. A1 or A2, it is the same with respect to health as shown by research studies, but okay. But A2 milk is being sold at a higher price. Okay, those who can afford, they'll buy. But the question is, as I've said, A1 and A2 are proteins. They are not present in ghee because ghee is 99.7% fat and 0.3% moisture. So even ghee is marketed as A2 ghee even in popular website. I mean popular commerce e-commerce sites like Amazon, etc. At a very high price, 1,000 rupees to 3,000. It is where consumers should know what is this A2 and A1, whether they really need to spend so much of money in buying a fat product, ghee, without having any protein in that, and why we should bother about A1 and A2 in ghee. That is the reason why I thought I will just share some of this information, because in social media, a lot of such information gets spread without any scientific evidence, and consumers without this real professional knowledge on a particular subject, they get carried away by this information. Yeah, the challenges are whether it is, for example, somebody sells you desi milk or A2 milk or organic milk. How do you know? Because these products are sold at a very high price, 100 rupees a liter, etc. But what is the guarantee that you get these products? There is no test, simple test which can be performed to establish that what you buy is what the what the seller means. And then even organic, even by FSSA, it is very difficult to know. So there are many complaints. People sell organic product, normal products in the name of organic products, and consumer buy them at 3 to 4 times by paying 3 to 4 times more than the normal product. So that's where I feel consumer awareness and quality is probably because of the social media is misinformed, and that's where prudent implementation by the regulatory authorities is needed. We have brought some of these subjects to the knowledge of FSSA. They're also looking into this particular matter. And then we have a lot of regulations, as I've said, BIS, AgMark, etc. One more objective, probably in the near future by FSSA, is to harmonize different regulations. Well-respected participants and faculty of the university and college, let me conclude by saying that milk and milk products are, they impart a good flavor and texture to all our food products wherever we use milk or milk products. For example, a cocoa-based sweet or a product made with ghee definitely, is different from the other type of products. They are delicious and digestive. They are nutritive and health promoting. We have seen some information on this, and many a times. Milk or milk products are considered as a source of food and medicine. As I've said, now milk is by regulation fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D. One probably doesn't need to take vitamin A and vitamin D as long as they take two to three servings of food. And you have wide variety and vast choice when compared to what it was a few decades back, and today you have 24/7 different variants of milk, from low fat milk to high fat milk to different brands. You have vast choice in each and every dairy product, whether it is dahi, yogurt, or cheese, or powder, or any such thing. And as I've said, quality and safety in the organized sector well in place, because they have different systems like ISO, food safety management systems, and organized procurement, processing, marketing, and vigilance. So definitely they are they are well placed with respect to quality and safety. And milk is an indispensable food in well balanced diet for all, as I mentioned, from infant to invalid, from young to elder. Everyone needs milk every day in our diet, and they are considered as safe foods. By and large, they are considered as safe foods. Regulatory mechanisms and the vigilance by the stakeholders, especially the consumers, play an important role in safeguarding this product. So thank you very much. Stay safe. And then in case there are some questions, I'll be too glad to answer them. And I'm sorry in case I'm definite and have crossed my scheduled time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhatta. I think you've explained everything very nicely and you've covered all the aspects for the layman as well. If with your permission, can we begin the demonstration first and then go on to the questions? I haven't seen many
Sure.
questions coming up in the
Sure.
chat box, but after the
Sure.
demonstration yesterday also we had a lot of queries with milk. So
Sure.
we will do the demonstration and then we come to the question and answer session.
Sure. I'll stop sharing my presentation.
Sure, sir. So now we begin with the live demonstration. Dr. Sakshi is going to come with the team.
Thank you so much, sir. Very
Dr.
insightful.
Technology.
Rajesh ji, we can play the online video for online audience. I request you to play the online video. Yeah, please make it full screen and there are some patches.
नमस्कार, आज हम सब यहाँ पर एकत्रित हुए हैं मिल्क में एडल्ट्रेशन को चेक करने के लिए, उसे सीखने के लिए कि वो कैसे चेक किया जा सकता है। मैं डॉक्टर साक्षी खुराना, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ फूड टेक्नोलॉजी, भास्कराचार्य कॉलेज ऑफ अप्लाइड साइंसेस, और हम तरह तरह के एडल्ट्रेंट्स को यहाँ पर चेक करेंगे, जैसे कि स्टार्च, यूरिया, वाटर, चॉक पाउडर, सोप पाउडर। किसी को भी चेक करने के लिए बहुत ही सिंपल टेस्ट्स होते हैं जो हम अपने घर में भी कर सकते हैं। मेरे साथ दो स्टूडेंट्स हैं।
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम पारुल भूषण है। मैं तीसरे वर्ष की छात्रा हूँ।
Rajesh ji, can you please increase the volume?
मैं भी तीसरे वर्ष की छात्रा हूँ फूड टेक्नोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट की।
तो मिल्क में हमने देखा कि एडल्ट्रेशन बहुत ही आसान है। मिल्क में पानी मिला दीजिए, पता नहीं चलेगा। स्टार्च मिला दीजिए, देखने से पता नहीं चलेगा। डिटर्जेंट पाउडर मिला दीजिए, वो भी नहीं पता चलेगा। तो इसलिए मिल्क में एडल्ट्रेशन को चेक करने के जो सिंपल टेस्ट हैं, आज हम वो सीखने जा रहे हैं। हमें पता है मिल्क हर घर में यूज़ होता है, बच्चे से लेकर बूढ़े तक मिल्क को कंज्यूम किया जाता है, चाहे वो चाय हो, दही हो, दूध हो, लस्सी हो, बटर हो, किसी भी तरह से कंज्यूम किया जाता है, पर मिल्क हर घर में यूज़ होता है और लार्ज वॉल्यूम्स में यूज़ होता है। तो आज हम सीखेंगे कि मिल्क में और मिल्क प्रोडक्ट्स में एडल्ट्रेशन किस तरह से सिंपल टेस्ट से घर पर भी चेक किया जा सकता है। तो हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। हमारा पहला टेस्ट होगा वाटर को चेक करने का, हाउ टू चेक द प्रेजेंस ऑफ वाटर इन मिल्क। सो लेट अस गो अहेड। इसके लिए हम बहुत सिंपल सा इंस्ट्रूमेंट यूज करते हैं, लैक्टोमीटर। लैक्टोमीटर घर में भी यूज किया जा सकता है, बहुत सिंपल सा डिवाइस है। उसके लिए हम मिल्क को एक सिलेंडर में फिल करेंगे, और एकदम ऊपर तक फिल करेंगे, जिसके बाद हम लैक्टोमीटर को उसमें फ्रीली फ्लोट होने देंगे। दो लैक्टोमीटर हैं हमारे पास, दो मेजरिंग सिलेंडर्स हैं जिसमें हमने दो डिफरेंट सैंपल्स डाले हैं। फ्रीली फ्लोट होने देंगे एंड वी लेट देम स्टेबलाइज, उनको रुकने देंगे, और उसके बाद अब जैसे ही रुक गए हैं हम इनको रीड करेंगे कि स्केल लैक्टोमीटर का कितना रीड करके दिखा रहा है। तो ये हमारा एक सैंपल है जिस पे लैक्टोमीटर की रीडिंग 30 आ रही है और दूसरे में 22. So one sample has lactometer reading of 30, the other sample has lactometer reading of 22. If the lactometer reading is less than 26, it very clearly indicates that milk is adulterated with water. तो 26 से नीचे है, इसका मतलब पानी मिला हुआ है, और 26 से ऊपर है, जैसे कि इस सैंपल में ये 30 की वैल्यू है, इसका मतलब इसमें कोई पानी नहीं मिला हुआ है, it is not adulterated with water. तो हम अब अपना अगला टेस्ट देखते हैं, जिसके लिए हमें स्टार्च का प्रेजेंस देखना है मिल्क में। Whether starch is present in milk or not again can be tested by a very simple test for which we just require an iodine solution and is easily available in the market also. So why is starch actually added to milk? Let us all understand that first. Starch हम एक बार पानी डाल दिया, उसको डाइल्यूट कर दिया, उसको वॉल्यूम बढ़ा दिया, बट देन व्हेन कंज्यूमर्स ड्रिंक इट दे वुड नो दैट इट इज एडल्टरेटेड, इट इज डाइल्यूटेड विद वाटर. सो व्हाट डू? वी नीड टू इंक्रीज इट्स कंसिस्टेंसी, ब्रिंग इट बैक टू द नॉर्मल. एंड हाउ डू वी डू दैट? Addition of starch is a very simple method. By adding starch when water is already present, the lactometer reading also gets affected. So by a simple lactometer test, we would not come to know whether starch is present and it has been diluted with water or not. So let us see how the presence of starch can be detected by a simple iodine test. So we have two samples with us. Let us check whether both the samples are pure or both are adulterated, or which of them is adulterated. Let us mix it. So it is still white. Let us see. When it is white, we understand that it is not adulterated with starch, because iodine with starch will form a black blue complex. However, in this sample it is white, no black blue complex is formed, and it means it is a pure sample. That means at least starch is not present in it. Let us check for the second one. So here we see that a blue black color is getting formed, which is because of the starch iodine complex, and this means that starch is present in it. This sample is adulterated with starch. इसमें starch मिलाया गया है. Let us compare both. देखिए, ये white है, pure है. ये वाला blue black form कर रहा है color. इसमें शायद दिख रहा है आपको. And this is how we can easily check for the presence of starch as an adulterant in milk. हमारा next adulterant है urea. Urea is added to milk to increase its nitrogen content. Nitrogen बढ़ता है तो उसमें टेस्ट करने पर ऐसा लगता है जैसे उसका high protein content है. Again the same thing implies. We have water added to milk as an adulterant. To make up for the loss of the protein content, we add urea back to it, right? So अब हम देखेंगे यूरिया का टेस्ट कैसे किया जा सकता है. बहुत ही सिंपल टेस्ट है इसका भी. वी ऐड स्मॉल अमाउंट ऑफ सोयाबीन पाउडर. हम सोयाबीन का आटा डाल रहे हैं. हर घर में मिल सकता है, नहीं भी है तो आप ले सकते हैं. थोड़ा सा सोयाबीन पाउडर डालेंगे, उसको अच्छे से मिक्स करेंगे. पारुल और दीक्षा इसको मिक्स कर रहे हैं. मिक्स करने से नहीं पता चलेगा कि क्या है इसमें, बट जब हम इसमें एक लिटमस पेपर डालते हैं उसका कलर चेंज हो जाता है, जिससे हमें पता चलता है कि उसमें यूरिया एडेड है या नहीं है. वेदर यूरिया इज प्रेजेंट इन इट और नॉट, वी कैन चेक बाय अ सिंपल लिटमस टेस्ट. लिटमस पेपर भी इजीली मिल जाता है. रेड लिटमस अगर ब्लू हो जाता है, इसका मतलब उसमें यूरिया है. इफ रेड लिटमस इज turning to blue, it's changing its color to blue, it is adulterated with urea. And the consumption of urea in the long run is very harmful for our health. It affects our kidneys. We need to wait for 5 minutes, so we leave these litmus papers and check again in 5 minutes. We can now see the change in color of the litmus paper. Red litmus blue हो गया है, which means for sample A the red litmus has turned blue and it indicates that it was adulterated with urea. However, sample B litmus has not changed its color, it has just become wet with the sample, and it means sample B was not adulterated with urea. So it's a very simple test to check for the presence of urea in milk. नेक्स्ट adulterant हमारा मिल्क में है salt. Salt is again very commonly added again to make up for the loss of the solids. When the lactometer reading because of addition of water is coming to be low, indicating that it is adulterated with water, at the same time salt is added to it. उसमें नमक मिला दिया जाता है जिससे उसकी lactometer reading फिर से बढ़ जाती है. तो इसका भी अगेन बहुत सिंपल सा टेस्ट है, दो ये शायद आप घर पे नहीं कर पाएँ क्योंकि इसके लिए रिएजेंट चाहिए होता है सिल्वर नाइट्रेट। तो आप इसे पास की किसी भी लैब में फ्री टेस्ट करवा सकते हैं। मोबाइल फूड टेस्टिंग लैब्स होती हैं जिसमें आपको कोई चार्ज नहीं किया जाता। So now we are adding silver nitrate to both the samples. We mix it well. Just 1 ml of silver nitrate is needed to be added. And then we add 0.5 ml of potassium dichromate. Parul is adding 0.5 ml of potassium dichromate to both the samples, and we observe for the change in color. Let us see what happens. So here we see in sample A, it is a yellowish color which indicates the presence of salt in it. However, in sample B, the color has turned to brick red PPT, precipitate बन गया है उसमें एक, जिसका मतलब है उसमें salt present नहीं है। तो जिसमें salt present है उसमें ये दो reagents silver nitrate और potassium dichromate डालने से yellow color हो रहा है। So a simple test to check for and a rapid indicative test for the presence of salt in milk. So the next adulterant is detergent. Detergent को milk में डाल दिया जाता है, इतना तक किया जाता है ताकि वो और whitish दिखे और प्रेजेंटेबल लगे और कंज्यूमर्स को लगे कि बहुत अच्छी क्वालिटी का मिल्क है। तो डिटर्जेंट का टेस्ट बहुत ही सिंपल है, कुछ भी नहीं ऐड करना है उसमें। हमें मालूम है डिटर्जेंट को अगर हम शेक करते हैं पानी में तो झाग बनाता है, इट फॉर्म्स लैदर। So that is what we are going to do with milk also today. We have 2 samples with us. We will check by shaking them vigorously whether they are forming foam or not. थोड़ा सा झाग तो हर दूध बनाएगा क्योंकि उसमें प्रोटीन प्रेजेंट है, लेकिन जिसमें डिटर्जेंट प्रेजेंट है या साबुन उसमें मिलाया गया है तो उसका झाग बहुत ज़्यादा होगा। So we'll shake the 2 samples. Diksha and Parul will do it, and we'll check whether detergent is present in these samples or not. So इसको आप थोड़ा क्लोजली अगर ऑब्जर्व करेंगे तो देखेंगे कि सैंपल ए में डिटर्जेंट है क्योंकि उसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा झाग दिख रहा है, लेकिन सैंपल बी में बहुत छोटे छोटे 2-3 ही बबल्स हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द प्रेजेंस ऑफ प्रोटीन इन देम। सो आई होप इट इज़ विजिबल, नहीं तो आप घर पर इसको डाल करके खुद से चेक कर सकते हैं कि डिटर्जेंट होने से कैसा झाग बन रहा है। तो वो हमको ऑब्वियसली नहीं चाहिए बिकॉज इट इज़ हार्मफुल फॉर आवर हेल्थ। It causes a number of gastrointestinal problems, उससे वॉमिटिंग डायरिया जैसी प्रॉब्लम्स भी हो सकती हैं और लॉन्ग टर्म और भी ज़्यादा बुरा असर हो सकता है। हमारा अगला टेस्ट है अब कंडेंस्ड मिल्क पर। मिल्क मेड नेस्ले का या और ब्रांड्स का बहुत इजीली अवेलेबल होता है मार्केट में, और उसमें क्योंकि वो बहुत गाढ़ा होता है उसको गाढ़ा करने के लिए उसमें बहुत मेहनत भी लगती है, टाइम भी लगता है, और उसको आसान बनाने के लिए और अपने प्रॉफिट्स को बढ़ाने के लिए मिल्क में स्टार्च को ऐड कर देना बहुत ही आसान है और उससे उसकी विस्कोसिटी बढ़ जाती है, वो गाढ़ा हो जाता है। तो अब कंडेंस्ड मिल्क में स्टार्च प्रेजेंट है या नहीं है हम पहले भी देख चुके हैं। मिल्क में स्टार्च को चेक करने के लिए वी जस्ट नीड आयोडीन सोल्यूशन। So that is what we are going to do again with condensed milk also, to check for the presence of starch in it. We'll add small amount, few drops of iodine solution to 2 samples that are available with us, and we see whether starch is present in them or not. तो आयोडीन का कलर ब्राउन होता है, अगर आयोडीन ऐड करने पे वो ब्राउन ही है तो उसमें स्टार्च प्रेजेंट नहीं है, लेकिन अगर उसमें स्टार्च एडेड है तो उसमें एक ब्लैक ब्लू कलर का कॉम्प्लेक्स बन जाएगा। थोड़ा सा और डालो, ग्लास रॉड और समथिंग। तो ये दो सैंपल्स जो हमारे पास हैं, इन दोनों में ही स्टार्च प्रेजेंट नहीं है, लेकिन अगर स्टार्च प्रेजेंट है तो हम पहले भी देख चुके हैं कि स्टार्च के प्रेजेंट होने से आयोडीन और स्टार्च एक ब्लैक ब्लू कलर का कॉम्प्लेक्स बनाएंगे, तो वो इजीली दिख जाएगा। हम मिल्क में ऑलरेडी चेक कर चुके हैं दैट इट इज फॉर्मिंग अ ब्लैक ब्लू कॉम्प्लेक्स इफ स्टार्च इज प्रेजेंट इन इट, बट हाउएवर वी आर फॉर्चुनेट टू हैव बोथ द सैंपल्स एज प्योर दैट आर नॉट अडल्टरेटेड विद स्टार्च। प्रेजेंस ऑफ डिटर्जेंट इन आइसक्रीम, आइसक्रीम को बहुत वाइटिश दिखाने के लिए, अट्रैक्टिव बनाने के लिए उसमें डिटर्जेंट भी डाला जा सकता है। तो उसको चेक करने का भी अगेन बहुत सिंपल तरीका है। हमें आइसक्रीम लेना है, ये हमारी आइसक्रीम मेल्ट हो गई है इसलिए ऐसा लग रहा है, अदरवाइज आप इमीडिएटली फ्रीज़र से निकाल के स्कूप करेंगे, उस पर थोड़ा सा लेमन जूस ही बस आपको ड्रॉप करना है, और अगर उसमें एफर्वेसेंस आता है, गैस निकलती है, दैट मीन्स इट हैज़ डिटर्जेंट एडेड टू इट। तो इसमें हम देख सकते हैं थोड़ा एफर्वेसेंस बन रहा है एक सैंपल में, एक में नहीं बन रहा है, मतलब इस सैंपल में डिटर्जेंट एडेड है। चलिए हम देखते हैं दही में किस तरह से स्टार्च का एडल्ट्रेशन किया जाता है। दही में स्टार्च क्यों डाला जाएगा? क्योंकि अगर दही बहुत गाढ़ी है तो कंज्यूमर सोचते हैं कि बहुत अच्छी है, तो उसमें दूध में स्टार्च मिला दिया जाता है सो दैट इट बिकम्स थिकर, इट बिकम्स मोर विस्कस एंड इट डज नॉट ooze out water when it is set at homes, right? So let us see how the presence of starch can be easily detected with the help of addition of iodine solution, which is easily available. So we add a few drops of iodine to 2 samples of dahi that are available with us. dahi या yogurt कुछ भी कह सकते हैं। कलर्ड होगा प्रोडक्ट तो मुश्किल होगा थोड़ा सा उसको जज करना, बट हियर वी हैव वाइट कर्ड विद अस एंड we can very well see that in one sample there's a black blue complex formation, which is because of the presence of starch, which forms a complex with iodine. So a blue black colored complex is formed and it indicates the presence of starch in it, whereas this sample does not have starch present in it, which is why it has not turned blue or blackish.
Hello. Rajesh, the video has stopped. Okay, thank you so much. So we can start with the Q&A. Dr. Batula, can we take some questions?
Yeah. Please, Ms. Shetty.
Yeah. So the first question is why veg and non-veg logo is not necessary for milk? I think you have.
Yeah, this is a good question. I know basically all animal products, even if there is an additive of very small, minute percentage, maybe 0.5 or below that, like gelatin or whatever it is that is sourced from animals is added, it shall have the logo of non-vegetarian. So same is the case with any food which is sourced from animals. But the exception that is given for milk and milk products, that you don't need to use either vegetarian logo or non-vegetarian logo, is probably for the simple reason that milk has a special place in the Indian context. You know, most of the people who even do fasting on a festive day, maybe any festive day that requires a fasting, they are forbidden from eating even cereals or any such thing. But milk is one food which can be taken. So this could be one of the reasons. Or milk is considered as a universal food from an infant to invalid and everyone. Let us say I put a non-vegetarian logo on milk just because it is produced from animals. So can anyone give that particular milk to the infant or sick people or whomsoever requires that this kind of important nutritive liquid, milk? So therefore, considering all these things, it must have been right to think not to give any kind of logo. Yeah, those who have exceptions like veganism, etc., they know vegans are very intelligent people. They know that this milk is sourced from animals, so they should not consume that. But for other general public, putting a non-vegetarian logo on a product like milk can affect the nutritive requirements which get through this milk, and probably that's the reason why milk doesn't need milk powder, which is reconstituted to be used as a liquid milk, doesn't need any kind of logo.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, can we make
Lactose intolerance? Yes, yes. You know, this lactose intolerance is a big issue. There are some people, lactose is a unique sugar present in milk, like sucrose is present in cane sugar, or fructose is present in fruits. Lactose is present in milk. It is made up of two units like glucose and galactose, and its digestion happens in intestine with the help of an enzyme called lactase. Some people lack this enzyme lactase, so this particular lactose is not digested in the intestine and it goes to large intestine where it is utilized by microorganisms, and such a process can lead to some abdominal pain and flatulence, diarrhea, etc. So they are considered as lactose intolerant people. But having said so, the scientific information shows
Anybody
that
has
from
any questions for Dr. Surendranath Katila, you may please ask, raise your hand so that we can pass over the mic to you.
Rajesh, can
Anybody
you?
has any questions?
Yeah, I'm still answering, ma'am. Can you
Rao
please
ma'am,
hold for a
we
minute?
are taking 2 questions online. So if we can wait a little.
Yeah. Then, so therefore, the test itself, according to the International Agency report in India, every second individual is suffering from lactose intolerance, which we don't observe. Yeah, there may be some very sensitive individuals who are having this lactose intolerance. So for such people, lactose digested milk is available in the market. Amul, for example, markets this lactose digested milk, pre-digested, so that one need not depend on the intestinal enzyme for digestion of lactose. Such milk is available, and it tastes, and rest of the quality parameters, it is the same. So one can comfortably take that UHT processed lactose digested milk marketed by farms like Amul.
Yes. We'll take a last question online. So how can we detect the addition of milk powder in milk?
According to me, it is not an adulteration because, as I've said, FSSAI regulations clearly mention you can adjust the solids of milk using milk solids. For example, I want to increase the fat percentage in milk. I want to market full cream milk with minimum 6% fat, and cows give only 4% milk. I procure cow milk, let us say. I need to add cream to market it as full cream milk. Similarly, cow milk only 8.5% solids, not fat is there. I want to increase it to 9% as per the requirement in, let's say, skim milk or certain other full cream milk category. I need to add skim milk powder to increase this SNF. So it is not a violation according to regulation. Well, in case still you want to find out the presence of milk powder, added milk powder in milk, if any consumer has got to know, one can do that test, but it involves the addition of acids. So it is not recommended for household conditions. But in case you take milk, add a few drops of nitric acid, and then you centrifuge the milk. If you get a precipitate in the bottom, that means it is added with milk powder, or otherwise you add a little bit of nitric acid and then in centrifuge. If the precipitate turns yellow, then it is considered as added with milk powder.
Thank you,
But
sir.
having said so, it is not considered a violation of the regulation, presence of
Yes.
milk powder.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, anyone have any questions? You can
We'll
ask.
take live questions.
Respected,
Rajesh,
why buffalo milk is easily converted in the form of curd and bought not of cow of other animals? Yeah, this is an important question. People from Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, they must be seeing very thick curd because mostly in that area it is buffalo milk. Similarly, western part of our India like Gujarat, etc. Cow milk, buffalo milk gives better curd because it has got a protein which is of different nature and a higher level of protein. 3.8% protein is there in buffalo milk when compared to cow milk 3.2%. Even solids not fat is very high in buffalo milk, something like 9+%, whereas in cow milk it is 8.5%. And calcium, which is an important mineral to give that curd strength, is present at 180 milligrams in buffalo milk, while it is 120 milligrams in cow milk. So these are some of the important reasons why buffalo milk gives firm curd when compared to cow milk. Cow milk also forms curd, but the curd strength is lower. But in down in south, what they are trying to do is they increase the solids not fat in cow milk to make good quality, good firm dahi. So that is the reason why even cow milk can be made to have reasonably good strength with respect to dahi. I mean something like buffalo milk. But otherwise, these two species milk give different strengths of curd, but both form curd. It's basically a lactic acid fermentation of milk.
Thank you, sir. We'll take some live questions from live audience.
Yeah.
Rajesh ji, I would request you to unmute Anil sir, and Rao ma'am, I would request you to please turn on the video and take it to the audience.
There is one more question online. We will take it later.
Yes.
Yes, any question from audience?
Any question, please?
Ma'am, if you could turn on a video of mobile which is connected, a mobile phone, if we want audience to be visible. Rajesh ji, if you can.
We have one question from the audience.
Batula sir and audience.
Is Dr. Batula? Dr. Batula? Am I audible to you?
Ma'am, the voice is low.
Dr. Batula, can you hear me, please?
Dr. Batula, can you hear us?
Yes, I am able to hear you.
Great. So we have one question from the audience. They were worried about
Please.
milk chocolate, sir. If you can
Sorry?
They were concerned about children eating milk-based chocolates. If you could just throw some light on that in terms of what are the probable adulterants, because as you know that chocolates are consumed largely by very young children as well. What are the probable adulterants in that? When you say milk-based chocolate,
chocolate adulteration, I'm not very sure, but in case the important ingredients in chocolates are cocoa butter, cocoa powder, and to some extent milk solids. So probably if somebody replaces milk solids with cheaper substances like starch, or cocoa solids with some other solids, and cocoa butter with vanaspati, these are the possible cases of so-called adulteration. So they become cheaper with respect to preparation. But then usually a good quality chocolate is supposed to have some amount of cocoa butter, cocoa solids, which are also very expensive, and then milk solids. So adulteration per se with respect to chocolates is only with respect to use of certain cheaper substances like, in place of cocoa solids, if they use some cheaper milk solids, milk powder, etc., cheaper milk powder. And then in place of milk fat or cocoa fat, if they use hydrogenated vegetable fat like vanaspati, these are the possibilities.
Right. Thank you so much. And I had one question, please, if you could throw light on that. Now we have the food fortification, in which you have vitamin A and vitamin D, which needs to be added to milk.
Yes.
I would want you to know, tell us that what is the status of fortified milk? In Delhi, I know that only Mother Dairy is selling standard milk, the token milk, which we call it. But most of the other packaged milk per se are not really still in the position or probably not supplying fortified milk.
Yeah, actually, vitamin A and vitamin D deficiencies are very rampant, especially vitamin A deficiency in children. And according to some medical surveys, every second individual in India is also suffering from vitamin D deficiency, though we have luxury of sunlight in our country. So that's the reason why it was decided to use milk as a vehicle to supplement our food with vitamin A and vitamin D. like salt is fortified with iodine to recover, I mean, to address the deficiency with respect to iodine. So they have allowed every type of milk according to FSSR, that every type of market milk, now even species milk can be fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D. But this is so far voluntary, but very soon it is going to become mandatory that all market milks like toad milk, double tone, standardized, etc., need to be fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D, sourced from again plants, not from animals.
Right. Thank you so much. So we have another question from a participant who is asking you the difference between powdered milk and the liquid milk. Is there any difference between the two in terms of the nutritive value?
Yeah, that question I have seen online also. So the issue is, we have a lot of milk, as I said in the beginning, supply, overshoots our demand. So plus we have two seasons in dairy industry called flush season, where a lot of milk is available, like after the onset of monsoon and up to winter. So, and during summer, there is some kind of scarcity with respect to availability of milk. It was, but not today. It is available throughout today. But then this surplus milk, what to do? You have so much of milk more than the demand. So this particular milk is converted using very good manufacturing practices into powders. There are 3-4 different varieties of powder: whole milk powder, skim milk powder, dairy whitener, etc. So these powders have got long shelf life when compared to milk. For example, even UHT milk could be stored only 3 to 6 months at a room temperature. But in the case of milk powder, it can go as long as 1 year. So what dairy industry does is the surplus milk is converted to milk powder and kept. And during situations where liquid milk is not adequately available, they use this powdered milk to reconstitute, or even retailly people can use dairy whitener and such things. Only some kind of heat processing happens during preparation of milk to, conversion of milk to milk powder, which may to some extent reduce the levels of some vitamins. Other than that, the gross constituents like proteins, fats, and lactose and minerals, nothing happens. A few vitamins are likely to be reduced due to this heat treatment, like vitamin A, etc. Other than that, absolutely there is no nutritional inadequacies in milk powder when compared to that in milk.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that is all for today. If there are any other questions, please raise your hands. Otherwise, we'd like to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, one question is there. Does A2 milk is more nutritious than milk we drink in daily life? Let me just quickly answer this. Absolutely no. There is no difference with respect to A1 and A2. I have mentioned that A2 was shown to be better in some laboratory study, but the government-sponsored research in India has shown that there is no difference between A1 and A2. A1 does not cause any health issues, and A2 is not causing any better impact with respect to health. So both are same, and you need not necessarily, if you are comfortable with A2 milk by paying more money, that is up to your choice. But otherwise, we need not necessarily, stop buying A1 milk or buy only A2 milk. That is my suggestion.
There is a question on YouTube, ma'am, if we can take one last.
Please.
Yes. What is the different adulterated milk mixed with water and tone milk? Is there any difference?
Can you please come again?
What is the different adulterated milk? Like he's saying, if the water is mixed, then what is the difference between tone milk and normal milk?
You see, each milk has got some fat and SNF percentage prescribed by the regulatory authorities. Toned milk, we say minimum 3% and 8.5% SNF. If that particular milk does not meet this fat and SNF requirement, it is considered substandard. And when you add water to any kind of milk, whether it is toned milk or double toned milk or any milk, the fat and SNF percentages come down. Like, they were showing in the demonstration, specific gravity as measured through lactometer goes down, etc. So any milk, irrespective whether it is toned or double toned, when you add water, it is considered as substandard, because the required amount of fat and SNF stipulated by the regulatory authorities will not be there in that particular adulterated milk, and that is considered as violation.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, ma'am. Ravana.
Can we close this?
Yes, yes.
So thank you so much, Dr. Surendra Patula, I think you have explained everything very, very simplistically, in very simple words, very dexterous. And that's why one of the reasons, no questions. So as the saying goes, when everything is understood well, then students don't have a query, or if the otherwise. But I have been a part of this program and I have also listened to everything very carefully. I think every part of the milk and milk production, what are the do's and don'ts, what should we do if you come across something, what are the simple ways of even acquiring the kits and using these, even that much you have said, the mixed species thing, the kind of adulterants which we were not even aware of it, have been also highlighted in very simple terms, and it has, I'm sure, touched the lives of all those participants who joined online. So they're not necessarily only food science, technology, or life sciences students, but they are from various domains. We have homemakers, we have parents, and we have also people who are part of consumer organizations. So no words to thank you, but on Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences, I am extremely happy that we were able to get you. And you
Thank
have
you.
a very busy man, I know that. You were the first one who said yes to me. And I'm also thankful to Mr. Sachin, who was the person who got me to connect with you. I think the
Thank you,
Department
Professor.
of Food Technology particularly has benefited a lot because in our curriculum, we are teaching food analysis. We are talking about quality inspection. We are talking about quality testing. Our budding food technologists who will graduate from here today seriously are empowered, are more entitled to perhaps take this to the next level. We have a lot of faculty members who have also specialized in dairy sciences from NDRI Canal, but we still seem to have added value to what we already know. My vote of thanks would be incomplete if I do not thank our technical support team sitting in Mumbai, the eFood Pathshala group, Dr. Nilesh, Dr. Diksha, and also Mr. Pawar, who have been with us and they have been facilitating this smooth transition both in a hybrid mode, that is online and offline. Without participants, you would agree it is meaningless to have any such workshops. So I earnestly thank every participant, which is who are sitting here physically, as well as those who have taken out time to be with us. So we have had people connecting with us across India. Yes, and after you finish your presentation, I've got text messages talking about people. They have enjoyed your talk thoroughly. And you asked me if you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give you 11 for that. So thank you once again, sir, for being with us. And let us hope to continue this journey when we have the next event which takes care of milk and milk products. It will be an absolute honor and privilege and prestige for our institution to have you over as an expert. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is my pleasure. And I thank each one of you, Professor Rao, organizers and participants, for your valued presence for this particular talk of mine. And should there be any requirement in future, we always believe dissemination of knowledge is very important even for common consumers so that they get to know what is happening in the system and what are their rights, etc. So we'll be too glad to be part of that dissemination of knowledge. Thank you, Professor Rao.
Thank you ever so much, sir. Thank you once again and have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diksha. I think we can take a call on calling this a day now. The students who are seated over here, please do leave the class only after taking your refreshment boxes. And hopefully you also like this program. Request you to please come back tomorrow, same time between 11 to 1. Thank you once again. Bye-bye for the day.
Rajesh, I think we can end.